Welcome to the complete guide on editing video inside of DaVinci Resolve. If you're new to editing in this program, then this is the perfect course for you. This is the course I wish I had when I first started out in this program. It would have saved me so much time. I'll be walking you through everything you need to know in order to get started. By the end of this course, you'll know the exact tools you need to edit videos and audio. You will have learned different editing techniques, including cutting and trimming and adding transitions and effects. You'll also know how to easily set up your workspace so that you can edit faster and more efficiently. We'll even explore the concept of keyframes, something that allows you to create precise and intricate animations and visual effects in your video. All of that and much more. So if you're ready, let's get started. We'll start with the download. When you go to the Blackmagic Design website, you'll see two options, DaVinci Resolve and DaVinci Resolve Studio. So what's the difference? Well, DaVinci Resolve is free. It has everything that you need to create a professionally edited video. DaVinci Resolve Studio, however, has a few more advanced features, but the good news is that the free version of DaVinci Resolve is more than enough for most people's needs. After you've installed DaVinci Resolve, the first thing you'll see is a list of the program's newest features. Click Continue and you'll be directed to the Quick Setup screen. Click Quick Setup, and from there the program will perform a quick system check. This is where the system will check your computer's compatibility and automatically configure the settings that are best for your computer. Click Continue and you'll be asked to choose the initial resolution that you would like your project to be in. If you prefer a custom resolution, simply select the last icon. Don't worry if you're not sure, I'll show you how to change this later. In my case, I'll choose Ultra HD. Click Continue and you'll be asked where you'd like your project files to be stored. Simply click the search button and choose your preferred location and click Select Folder. Now click Continue. So what is this screen? Well, if you've used a different video editor before, DaVinci Resolve will try to replicate your previous editor's layout and customization options. However, if you're new to video editing, you can select DaVinci Resolve. After clicking Continue and Start, we're all set. Now we can create a new project, but first, let me introduce you to the Project Manager. To access it, simply click File and then select Project Manager. This will be the screen that you see each time you open the program, and it can help you keep track of all of your projects. You can even start new projects directly from this screen by clicking on New Project in the bottom right-hand corner. And you can name your project anything you'd like. I'll name this My First Project, and I'll click Create. When the new project opens, you'll see your workspace. It's like a fresh blank canvas ready for you to create something new. And there are lots of tools, functions, and features that can help you create movie magic, but in this tutorial, we're going to keep it incredibly simple, and we're only going to use 3 work areas: Media, Edit, and Deliver. Ultimately, these pages offer all the basic functions needed to quickly and easily create a polished and professional video. Okay, we'll start the editing process by making sure that your project has the right settings. Click File and then select Project Settings. First, we need to change the timeline resolution. The timeline resolution will determine how detailed and clear your final video looks. So I'll click the drop-down menu beside Timeline Resolution to see a list of commonly used resolution. In this case, I want my video to have a 1440p resolution. Since it's not available on the list, I'll select Custom and then type in 2560 by 1440. Now we need to change the timeline frame rate. The frame rate, also known as FPS, short for frames per second, will determine how smooth your final video looks. I'll choose 30 for my FPS. Before we save our settings, there are 2 very important things that you need to know. The first has to do with your FPS. The FPS that you choose will depend on the frame rate of your camera and the type of video you're making. If you're creating a film or cinematic movie, the standard FPS is 24. If you're creating a video for a social media platform like YouTube, you can set your FPS to 24 or 30, like me. If you have a gaming channel, then the best FPS is 60. Also, once you start moving video files into the program, you won't be able to change this number. So make sure that you're sure about the settings you need. The next thing has to do with timeline resolution. Remember, the timeline resolution will determine how detailed and clear your final video looks. The higher the resolution, the better the quality. But the downside is that a higher resolution will take a lot more computing power and storage space, and this can slow down your computer during the editing process. In contrast, the lower the resolution, the easier it is for your computer to handle. But the downside is that a lower resolution can make your final video look less detailed. So how do you get the quality look of high resolution combined with the great computing performance of low resolution? Let me show you how I do it. I'll click Save to make sure that my timeline resolution and frame rate are set. Then I'll go back to the menu bar at the very top of the workspace and click Playback. Next, I'll hover over Timeline Proxy Resolution and then select Half. This tells the program to show me a lower quality version of my video while I'm editing. This means that even though my final video may have a high resolution, my computer won't have to work as hard while I'm editing. If you notice that the playback isn't as smooth as you'd like while you're editing, you can always select quarter. Everyone's computer is different. Yours may be more or less powerful than mine. So at first, you may need to experiment to find the perfect timeline resolution for you. Don't worry, there is a way to find out if you're using the wrong timeline resolution for you, and I'll show you that shortly. But for now, let's move on to the next stage of editing. Now that you have your settings, let's go to Media. It's the first tab at the bottom of the workspace. Click the Media tab. Media is where you'll store all of the pictures, footage, and sounds that you need in order to make your video. It's like dumping all of the puzzle pieces into one box. I've already compiled all of the pictures, footage, and sounds that I need and placed them in a folder on my desktop. You'll see an area that says No Clips in Media Pool. Drag and drop your folder or files here. It's possible that a dialog box will pop up and ask if you want to change the frame rate for your project. This happens when the footage that you're dragging over has a different frame rate than what you've just set for your project. And the program wants to know if you would like to change the frame rate of your project to match the frame rate of the footage that you're dragging over. If you didn't intend to change it, then select Don't Change. And just like that, you can see every file that was in that folder. Now that we have all of our puzzle pieces, let's move on to the Edit page. It's the third tab at the bottom of the workspace. Click the Edit tab. Edit is where you'll arrange your pictures, footage, and sounds in the order you want. It's also where you can do things like cut, trim, add effects and transitions, adjust the sound, and adjust the color of your footage. So it's where you'll spend most of your time. The first thing you need to do in Edit is drag and drop each clip that you want to use from the media pool onto the timeline and place each of them side by side, one after the other. You can also drag multiple files over at the same time. You'll see a clip that says Timeline 1. You won't be able to drag this clip over. It only exists as a placeholder for the timeline settings. If you need more workspace while you're editing, you can use the Timeline Zoom option. Zoom out to make the clips appear shorter, zoom in to make the clips appear longer. It will zoom in to wherever the red playhead is positioned. You can also use the scroll bar in order to navigate through your timeline. you'll notice that there are two types of tracks, one for video and one for audio. I'll drag the audio file to the audio track. If you want to change the height of your clips, go here to Timeline View Options and adjust the track height. You can also choose how you want your audio, video, and timeline to be displayed. If you want to see all of your clips on the timeline in one view, then you can click the Full Extent Zoom option. This can be extremely helpful if you're working on a bigger project with lots of clips. Also, you'll notice two playback windows, one to preview the files in the media pool and one to preview the clips that you're editing on the timeline. This window is labeled Timeline. If you prefer to focus on just the timeline, click Single Viewer Mode in the top right-hand corner. So feel free to play around with these settings and adjust them to your liking. If you take a quick glance, you'll notice that the edit page has several tools and features, but again, in this tutorial, we're going to keep things incredibly simple, and we're only going to use a few features: the selection tool, the blade tool, the trim tool, transitions, effects, and inspector. Ultimately, these features can help you quickly and easily create a polished and professional video. Okay, let's start with the selection tool. It's the first icon on the toolbar. The selection tool will help you arrange your clips in the order you want. You can click the selection tool and then move your clips around on the timeline. If you want to move more than one clip at the same time, simply click and hold an empty space on the timeline and drag the cursor over the clips and then move them. When you're moving your clips, you can drag them up and around other clips like this, or you can drag them through other clips like this. Dragging your clips through other clips can be convenient, but there's always a chance that you can unintentionally replace parts of the clip that you're passing through. But if you make a mistake, don't worry. You can always go to the menu bar at the top of the workspace, click Edit, and then Undo. Let's move on to the blade tool. It's the fourth icon on the toolbar. This tool is like a pair of scissors. Use it to cut out parts of the video that you don't want. You can click the blade tool and then move the red playhead so that the line is positioned over the exact spot that you want to cut. And then hover over the line with the blade and cut the clip. This will divide the clip into separate parts. In fact, you can create multiple parts this way. Now, use the selection tool to select the unwanted part of the clip. Then press backspace. When editing in DaVinci Resolve, it's a good idea to use backspace instead of delete. And that's because the delete button will potentially delete multiple clips on multiple layers, but the backspace key will only delete the clips that you've selected. You can always cut the clip without using the red playhead, but to me, the playhead makes the cut more precise. Now that we've made our cut, I'll pull the remainder of the clips together. Now that your clips are arranged and cut down, let's add some transitions. For now, we're done with the media pool, so we're going to hide this library of clips. Go to the top of the workspace and unselect Media Pool, and then select Effects. Now you have access to a library of effects. You can always have both the media pool and effects open at the same time, but I prefer to keep things clean and simple. This library allows you to enhance your video and audio with effects and transitions. This is also where you can find text to add to your video. Once you're in the effects library, select Video Transitions. It's the first option on the far left under Toolbox. Transitions are used to create a seamless connection between different clips, and this makes the video flow more smoothly. Hover over each transition to get a preview of what each selection looks like. I'll choose the Blur Dissolve transition. Then I'll drag it over to the timeline and then drop it between two clips. When the transition is successfully added to the clip, you'll see a white rectangular outline. If you don't see the white rectangular outline, then you may need to use the timeline zoom feature to get a more detailed view of the clip. Sometimes, not all of the time, even after zooming in, you may be unable to add a transition, meaning you may try to drag and drop the transition between the clips, but nothing happens. This means that these two clips may need to be overlapped so that they can fade into each other. The good news is you can use the trim tool to create more overlap between the clips. The trim tool is the second icon on the toolbar. This tool allows you to make precise adjustments to the length and position of your clips. You can also use it to overlap your clips. Click the trim tool and then hover over the end of the clip. When this tiny icon appears, click and drag the end of the clip to make it shorter or longer. As you do this, you'll notice a white outline that shows you how much the clips are overlapping. Remember, you can always zoom in to the timeline to get a more detailed view. Once you're done overlapping the clips, you can add your transition. The more the clips overlap, the longer you'll be able to stretch your transition. If you change your mind about the transition, you can click the selection tool, select the transition, and hit backspace. Now, let's add some effects. Go back over to the effects library and click effects. Just as is the case with transitions, you can hover over each effect to get a preview of what each selection looks like. I'll scroll down and select the video camera effect. Once you've found the effect you want, you can drag it over to your timeline and then drop it directly on the clip. Just a little warning, effects can take a lot of computing power. The more complex the effect and the more effects you use, the more likely it is to slow down your computer. Let's move the playhead over to the clip that you just added the effect to and press play in your timeline playback window to see how the effect looks. As you're playing the footage with the effect, pay attention to the frame rate indicator next to your timeline playback window. If you notice that the indicator drops dramatically lower than the frame rate you chose for your project after adding an effect, your computer might struggle to keep up. To fix this, you can try lowering your timeline proxy resolution. If that doesn't help, you can try lowering your timeline resolution. If you change your mind about an effect and you want to remove it from the clip, you can use Inspector to delete the effect. And Inspector is what we're going to talk about next. For now, we're done with the effects library, so we're going to unselect it. And then we're going to select Inspector. It's in the right-hand corner at the very top of the workspace. You can expand this window by clicking the arrow on the far right. Again, you can always have both the effects and inspector windows open at the same time, but I prefer to keep things clean and simple. Now that the inspector is open, select the clip that you just added the effect to, and you'll be able to see all of the attributes for all the elements added to the clip, including the audio, effects, and transition. For example, for the video camera effect that we just added to this clip, we can change the overlay color from white to red, and I'll click OK to save the change. Not only that, but you can also turn the effect on and off, or you can delete it altogether. If your clip has audio, or if you have a separate audio track, you can click on the clip or track and control your audio. You can adjust things like the volume and the pitch. By the way, if you want a more visual experience with your audio, you can also use the mixer tool. It's at the top of the workspace to the left of the inspector tool. In this case, I'll unselect the mixer tool because I don't need it right now. One of the best things about Inspector is that it gives you a lot of control over your transitions and effects. While the Effects tab gives you access to a library of pre-made transitions and effects, The Inspector tab gives you access to a tool that will allow you to create your own custom-made transitions and effects. These custom-made transitions and effects can be made with something called keyframes. Creating keyframes is easy. Keyframes can be as simple or as elaborate as you would like. For example, one of the simplest effects that you can create is the zoom effect. In this instance, we only need 2 keyframes. One keyframe to start the zoom and one keyframe to stop the zoom. Let's start by creating the zoom effect. I'll click the video clip and then select the video tab. Next, I'll place the red playhead over the exact spot where I want the zoom motion to start. Then I'll click the diamond icon beside the zoom option. You'll notice that the diamond turns red. There, we've just created a keyframe. It's a lot like pressing record. You can also think of these keyframes as bookmarks. They act as reference points as to where you made these changes. We just need one more keyframe for this effect. So I'll move the playhead over to the exact spot where I want the zoom motion to stop. Finally, I'll adjust the zoom value so that the clip zooms in as much as I want. When the white indicator arrow appears, you can drag it to the left to decrease the value. Drag it to the right to increase the value. You can also type a specific value into the box. This time, you'll notice that the diamond turns red automatically because the program automatically knows that it should keep track of the changes that you make to the zoom value. And this is what you should expect for each new value that you would like to keyframe. Whether you're changing zoom, position, rotation, angle, or any other setting in the effects, transitions, or audio tab, you'll need to add the first keyframe, and with each subsequent change you make, DaVinci Resolve will automatically add the keyframe for you. Let's play it back to make sure that our zoom effect works. We'll move the playhead back to the beginning of the clip and then press play. Looks good. You don't have to limit yourself to just one effect. You can create multiple effects on the same clip. For example, we can add another effect to the clip that we were just working with. For this effect, we're going to change the position of the clip so that it focuses on one person. For this, on top of the zoom effect that we've already created, we need to add keyframes for position. This is where those bookmarks that the program created come in. If you look at the diamond beside the zoom option, you'll see an arrow. When you click the arrow, you'll notice that the playhead moves on the timeline. Specifically, it takes us to the location of the keyframes that we've already created. We can use these as guides so that we can do both effects in the exact same spot so that the animation flows better and it's easier to keep track of. First, we'll use the arrow to travel to the first keyframe that we made for zoom. This is where you'll make your initial keyframe for position. So we'll start by clicking the diamond beside position. Then we can press the arrow next to zoom to travel to the final keyframe. And then we can change the position value to what we need in order to automatically make the last keyframe. And then we can play it back to make sure that we got the desired effect. Once you've become comfortable with layering your keyframes for multiple different values, you can add multiple effects at the same time. Now, let's go to Deliver. It's the very last tab at the bottom of the workspace. Click Deliver. Deliver is where you'll finalize and export the video. The settings will look different depending on what hardware you have. Seemingly, there's a whole lot going on here, lots of buttons and numbers and options, but as promised in this tutorial, we're keeping things incredibly simple. I'm going to show you the settings that will make your video look crystal clear every time. I don't care what operating system you're on, whether you're on Mac, Windows, Linux, a laptop, desktop, iPad, whatever. These settings will work for anything. One of the first things you'll notice near the top of the workspace are social media platform logos. DaVinci makes it so easy. You can click any social media platform logo and it will automatically export your video with the settings that work for that platform. And it will even allow you to upload it directly to the platform from DaVinci Resolve. But not so fast, specifically when it comes to YouTube. Yes, this option may be very convenient, but these YouTube presets can lead to a much lower quality video. However, this section can still be really useful. There are presets that will allow you to share your projects with people who work with other video editors, such as Final Cut and Premiere Pro. Now, let's talk about the settings that will help you understand how to make the best presets and will also help you get the highest quality video that should work across all platforms. Click Custom Export. Let's start with Format and Codec. The format you choose will determine the type of file your video is saved as, and the codec you choose will determine how compatible the video is with other software applications and social media platforms. The format and codec that are most universal across all major platforms are MP4 for the format and H.264 for the codec. Click the drop-down menu beside Format and select MP4. Click the drop-down menu beside Codec and select H.264. You could also choose H.265 if it's available, as it's generally higher quality and could help save a bit of space. But keep in mind that if you choose H.265, it could make your computer work harder, take more time for YouTube to process, and you may also have trouble with the playback on certain media players. As for the encoder, it's generally best to keep this setting on auto, as DaVinci will automatically know which option to use and when. The last setting that will be the most important to change would be quality. Oftentimes this will be set to automatic and best, but this doesn't often render the best quality, and it's best to set the quality yourself. So here we would choose Restrict to instead. This is where you would enter your desired bitrate for your video. For my video, I'll enter 70 megabits per second, which is 70,000. The format, codec, and bitrate are what will ultimately determine the overall quality of the video, bitrate being the most important. The best bitrate for you depends on the type of video you're making. After some testing, we've determined that these are the best bit rates for each type of video. For example, let's say that I want to export my video in 4K. I would simply click the drop-down box near Resolution and select 3840 by 2160, which is 4K. And then I would go down to quality and change my bitrate to 150 megabits per second, which is 150,000 in order to get good quality. Here's a tip. If you're making a video for YouTube and you set your timeline resolution to 1080p, you can change your export resolution to either 1440p or 4K. This will force YouTube to show your video in a much higher quality. Now that we have our export settings, let's name the file. Scroll back to the top where it says File Name and type in the name of your project. This is what it will be saved as. Below File Name, you'll see Location. Click Browse and choose where you would like the final project to be exported. Next, click Add to Render Queue. And at the right of the program, you'll see the name of the project and file where it's going to be exported to. Finally, click Render All to start the export.